welcome. Thanks for joining us. Make sure I got my laptop muted here so that we can answer questions without it, There we go. Without it dinging at us. Sam is making his coffee and then will join us. There we go. I think we got it. All right, welcome Holly, thanks for joining us. And yeah, we finally did get some rain. It's actually been raining on and off every couple of days, which is like perfect. My garden has really taken off now that the rain has decided to not be so stingy anymore, which is really nice. And it makes me excited for the fall garden, which I almost decided I wasn't gonna plant because the weather was so just naughty and I didn't want to have another garden to try to just needing constant like salvage attempts. I got a stick in my hair. I was outside feeding chickens and got under a tree. All right. And welcome Tammy. Thank you for joining us. All right. Let's see what's going on. There we go. All right. So let me know if you can see me okay, because my stream, it was doing something weird. So we record on the phone, but I have it up here on the laptop so we can watch the comments, and it wasn't loading the stream. So hopefully, I think we got it now. Okay, there we go. Welcome Homestead Nana, and Grammy is here. Grammy was just here with Grandpa Dan, but they left this morning, so they're somewhere halfway between here and North Carolina. I don't think this tripod's gonna hold. But she's found the energy to join us for the live, even though she just spent all day in the car. So thank you, Grammy. And Allison, welcome. And Refining Roots, thanks for joining us live. Oh, and here's Sam. Uh-oh, there it goes. So tonight we're going to talk about our fall plans kind of thing.
That arm right there.
But we always start, while we're collecting people here, we always start with Sam's nursing school update. So Sam, dun dun dun, can you give us your nursing school update?
Let's see. Friday we had my health assessment that I had to perform for one of my instructors.
Tripod.
It's tripods. On its last leg. Boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom.
I don't know what its dealio is tonight. Why it's struggling so much. But so Friday I had to perform a health assessment of a patient in the hospital for one of my instructors, and I got checked off on that. So that felt really good. But tomorrow morning I have a regular kind of like weekly test, and then Wednesday we have our final for both classes. So it's back to back. It's 4 tests in 2 days. So it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit stressed out about it, trying to get ready for 4 tests in 2 days.
But then you get like 10 days off, which will be nice, right?
You either get 10 days off or you get all the days off.
If you don't pass. Get a whole lot of days
you
off.
get a whole lot of days off. But I'm trying not to let it overwhelm me, you know. Do well on these first 2 tests and then tackle the finals on Wednesday. So that's kind of where I'm at. But it felt good to get everything, my health assessment checked off on Friday. I did really well on it. Didn't miss any points. Got 100% on it. That felt good. So we're cruising. We get done with the next 2 days, I will feel great.
I'll feel great too.
Yep.
Because I'm really tired. I know you're the one doing all the studying,
10 or 12 days off.
I'm really tired too.
It'll be awesome.
Welcome, Tracy. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure
Thanks
it's
for subbing.
Unbelievably hot in Arizona today. So Diane says good luck.
Thank you, Diane.
So I think he's going to do great. He's done really good. And actually, funny story, they have an extra credit project that he can do for extra points. But it's like a 4th grade. He has to make a heart, and show a dysfunction in the heart.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a 4th grade thing, because there are people that will make it look like a professional heart model. But our teacher gave us...
Arts and crafts is not Sam's strong point.
Our teacher gave us gave each of us a heart issue with the heart, and then you're supposed to make some kind of a model or something that represents a heart, and you have to show that dysfunction, and it can't just be drawn, like it has to be like a 3D kind of
But it doesn't
thing.
have to actually be a heart.
It doesn't have to be a heart, it just has to represent it. I am not artistic or crafty at all, at like 0%. And I tried to work on it for a couple hours the other day, and it looked like a 4th grader did it. It was terrible. But it gives you extra points. It's extra credit. They don't take points away, so I gotta try and find some time to squeeze something in. But anyway.
So, Tracy says, I'm just new to canning. I'm terrified of my new pressure canner. And Tracy, that is a very common sentiment. I'll say the same thing that I always say, that if you follow the rules, so the book that came with your pressure canner will tell you the safety rules to follow every time you use your canner, how to store it safely, how to check to make sure it's safe to use. You follow those every time, you will be really safe.
Unless
Canners,
you have a used canner.
You
picked one up
if you have a
somewhere.
used canner,
You still might be able to look some stuff up and find it.
You know, you always on used canners, you make sure they're not really dented. You make sure the lid still fits really tight. The gasket is still nice and rubbery, things like that. But if you're a new canner, then just follow the instructions and you'll be safe. I always recommend the National Center for Home Food Preservation. It's a free website with instructions on how to can anything that you could want to can that's in the realm of what I'll say is like normal canning. There's some people who can things outside those realms, but start there. Start with what's recommended and easy and normal, and once you get really good at that, you can decide how far out on the fringes you want to go.
Let's see. Allison says Sam is able to do so well because he has you, Laura, to support it all. You both got 100%, and that is totally true. 100% true.
Thank you.
And says Sam, you'll do great. Use Play-Doh to create your 3D heart. What heart issue do you have to represent? I have to represent ventricular. I think it's ventricular septal defect.
The hole in the septum.
The hole in the which babies have that, or like when they're in utero, they're born with it, but it's supposed to close up once you're born. So I feel like it's pretty easy to, it would be pretty easy to show, but my idea is basically to take a cardboard box and divide it into 4 sections. So you have your top parts of the heart, your atrias or atrium, and then your bottom parts, and label everything that way. It'll be super, super simple, but maybe it'll get me a few points.
Yeah, so. JJ, they just had a birthday party for JJ, Annie, and Patton because they're all summer birthdays. So we combined with our summer cousin birthdays and had a giant family party. And JJ got a humongous doll house.
Oh, we have tons of boxes.
And so we now have this huge. So he's gonna have a massive sized heart, but it'll be good. Tracy, mine's a brand new Presto. I have the Presto 2. The instruction manual is really clear. Just follow the rules, and after you do it the first time, you'll feel 100% better.
Better late than never. Hi, Judy and Charlie.
Yeah, welcome.
Anne says she's late, but she's here.
And Tessa's here, thank you. And Anne says your idea should work well. I think it'd be good. He tried to make one. He was going to make one out of Legos. And then we realized, we have all girls, the Legos are all like these weird pieces, like little flowers and little princess bottom halves because their heads are missing. We didn't have a lot of standard Lego blocks. And so we didn't have enough Legos to do that. But,
yeah, it'll be super simple and pretty rudimentary.
But you can't lose points, right? You can only get points.
That's true.
So, all right. So on to the fall farm plants. We're rolling into fall, believe it or not. At least I know fall won't be here for over a month. But technically, when it comes to homesteading and stuff, you got to start ahead of the season, right? Oh, little man is done playing. See you.
You better go play with your toys,
so
little
originally, I usually plant a small fall garden somewhere. So some people do rotational systems. I can't think of the word. It's not rotational. It's when you plant things according to the season, and when you pull up a spring thing, you put down a fall thing in the same spot in your garden. And I cannot think of that word, and maybe somebody could remind me, but it's not rotational, I don't think. There's another word. But anyway, I tried that several years in a row here. And our growing season is just 2 weeks too short. Because by the time my potatoes or my garlic was coming up, like if I planted my kale or whatever, like we would be almost ready and then we'd get a really deep freeze and it would all die. And so I don't do that anymore. I have a separate area where I plant my fall stuff so I don't have to worry about what's come out, and if I can get it out fast enough, I can just plant the fall stuff when it's time to plant the fall stuff. So we had a second greenhouse, which incidentally had to become an animal quarantine zone instead of a greenhouse, and it has now been moved out to the field as a second animal shelter. So I have this spot that's covered in decomposing shavings where the grass hasn't grown, and I thought, that would be a beautiful place for a fall garden because it's going to have a ton of nitrogen. It doesn't have to be tilled. It doesn't have to be like, weeded and all sorts of stuff. It's just got all those decomposing shavings. I can kind of spread aside and plant in the ground and then use them as a weed barrier. So that's my I'm going to answer Tracy's question real quick before it rolls away. Do I oil peel on my canner? Not before I can. I think if you look in the care instructions, it's recommended like before you pack it away for a while. And you can
just
do
kind
that.
of keeps it fresh.
Keeps it fresher. Yeah,
brittle.
but I don't do it every time I can. And I mean, my seal's several years old and it's still in really great shape. So some of that may depend on where you live, to how dry your climate is and things like that. And how where you're storing it, how you store it. Those are all things to consider. But that's a good question. Anyway, so that garden, my plan is to plant some kale and some spinach because we're eating tons more green stuff since we're on our new diet, which is probably better for us anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to try some beets and some radishes because they grow really fast. So you want things that have short growing seasons for a fall garden. And I'm also hoping, Mitter P is throwing toys now, that I can put some hoops over the top, some flexible kind of PVC pipe, and use my greenhouse plastic and have like a fake greenhouse top kind of for this area. So when we get really close to frost, I can hopefully stretch the growing season an extra month. I still do have my original greenhouse. I'm going to plant that as well in September. And that'll probably be mostly lettuce mixes, and I think that might be about it. Because that's really, I found that there's things that we eat regularly. And there's no reason to grow really weird things all winter long if we don't eat them regularly. Summer I can get kind of creative. I like to try new things and we'll work them in our diet. But I just found in winter, like, we eat what we eat. And so if I'm going to put the effort into growing a greenhouse, I'm just going to grow things I know I'm going to use and not have to try to figure out how to use them. So.
Hello, Silver Moon.
Welcome.
It is kind of nice. I think I like our growing season because you can extend it some with greenhouses and stuff. And I know if we had money in the perfect setup, you could have a greenhouse like all year round. But it is kind of nice to have that break.
It is
in the winter.
I think our bodies are just meant to have breaks from work and downtime, and the way like modern society is, we don't get that, right? You work 51 weeks out of the year so that you can have your 1 week vacation. That's what it feels like. Yeah. And farming, it's much more like right now is really busy because the garden is booming. We're doing tons of canning. Fall, it'll taper off a little bit. The winter garden, fall garden is really easy to care for because the weeds don't grow like crazy because the weather isn't good for them. And then, especially in the middle of winter, sometimes you're sitting around and you're like, what am I going to do? I don't have, I mean, there's always things to do with kids, but there's not like, it's not that back-breaking outside work. It's not
I mean, winter can have its struggles too, especially if you have a lot of animals and stuff. But as far as like being outside for, what feels like 12 hours a day and stuff, winter's usually not quite as intense, and it does have a little more laid-back time, I feel like, anyway. You go out once or twice a day to take care of your chores.
Check. It's mostly just the water. Water is I feel like water is like the bane of existence, and I can now understand like reading those Little House on the Prairie books and stuff. Like in the summer, you're always like, is there enough water? The animals have enough water? Is it too hot? Do they have enough water? And then you roll around to winter, you're like, is the water frozen? Do the animals have enough water?
Next to springs and rivers and creeks.
It's constant.
And lakes and ponds, because you had water right there, so it's really convenient, especially when you had to haul it. If
we build a new house, or if we fix this one up, like, I'm gonna be like all about the irrigation systems. We are going to have good water systems.
Have hydrants everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
It'd be nice to have. I'd like to have some automatic waterers for the animals that are hooked up to what's the word I want? Like tanks. Not necessarily all of them hooked up to the well. Maybe some of them that way, but a lot of them hooked up to some holding tanks and let them drip down gravity fed way.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really nice, especially for the animals that don't need a ton of water, like the chickens. You know, I don't know that right now we'd ever have 200 chickens again. And so with the animals we have right now, you could definitely do that.
You don't want 200 chickens again? No.
I mean, it's not that bad. But
I don't know. After buying a $15 chicken that was only like 3 pounds at the grocery store because it was organic, I was like, man, we need to raise some chickens again. It was extremely expensive.
Water freezing is horrible. Trying to keep just chickens and rabbits in water is horrible. Yeah, it can be a struggle for sure. And there's ways to keep it from freezing, but a lot of it includes plugging it up to electricity and stuff. So sometimes it can use a lot of power. There are ways to get around it.
We have a friend from church, and his dad was a cattle. Is Phil's dad a cattle farmer? Is that what he had?
Who?
Phil.
I do not know.
Remember that? I think he had cattle, and he was talking about, when he was a little boy growing up with his dad, and they had kerosene, water heaters for their cattle, big vats, so that the water wouldn't freeze out in the field. And he was telling a story about how it was just so cold, and the heater went out, and so the water had all frozen. His dad was all mad, going out there and trying to light it. He got a little too zealous with the blowing, the lighting, and it just poofed back, and it burned his eyebrows. He was okay, but it's funny. So
our baby was born yesterday. We're still here live.
Awesome.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
That's exciting. I hope everything's going well for you guys.
Amy says, I've never planted a fall garden, but I really want to try this year. Yeah, so the biggest, a lot of it depends what zone you're in, because you could have a really long fall. But we're central USA here. And the key for us is to pick things that have really short growing. If you read the back of the seed packet, it says harvest in 30 days or 60 days. I don't plant anything that's got a number higher
Over
than
160.
Yeah. Pumpkins, it's 120 days. You're planting your pumpkins in May, but Halloween's not till October, but you need all of those months to grow the pumpkins.
Tender loving care.
Yeah. So I picked things that are really quick, which is a lot of the lettuces and the small roots like the turnips or radishes. I actually don't know that I've ever eaten the turnip, so I don't know why I said turnip, but maybe I should. So, but yeah, that's my clue. And then also having some sort of cover can really help. You're not going to be growing stuff unless you have a heated greenhouse, when it's the dead of winter, but some sort of cover that you can plop over it at night, whether it could even just be a Rubbermaid, a clear Rubbermaid Tupperware container. You know what I'm talking about? That you store clothes in. If it's see-through, you just sit that on top of your little patch at night, and it acts like a little greenhouse to ward off the frost. And until it gets really cold, like the teens, it'll keep everything alive. You just hop it off in the day when it's a little bit warmer. It keeps the frost off your plants, and that just kind of can give you an extra month. Really, on both ends, you can start plants that way, too.
It doesn't have to be a big, expensive thing. You can also build some really cheap, those little low tunnels. They're only a foot or two tall. If you look online, search YouTube and stuff, you can find really, really cheap ways to build those and cover up a lot of veggies in the fall and winter.
So... all right, but as far as animals go, so we have 2 sheep, which should be ready for meat making. And I was hoping to get them processed in December. And I was calling around, and I could not find a butcher to take them in December because it's deer season. And they were like, nope, all we do in December is deer. So I guess we're going to hang on to them one more month, which, as far as sheep go, this is the first time we've done sheep, but from my reading, as long as they're under 12 months old, it should still be really good meat. And they won't be 12 months until March. So December isn't a ride or die
number. And we
found
a place that'll come get them.
Yeah, we found a place that'll come get them, but they'll only do them in January. So the only downside is that we have to wait. We have to feed them because at that point you'll be feeding them hay, right, and some grain or whatever you're supplementing with. So it's just an added expense, which is kind of But I definitely don't feel comfortable even thinking about doing it myself, right? And so it's got to go somewhere. I just couldn't find anywhere to take it because it's deer season and everybody's out doing their deer season stuff.
Ann says, I put in bush beans where I had cabbage and broccoli. I should get beans as long as we don't get any early frost.
That's
a good
awesome.
idea.
I have never, one of my homestead goals is to successfully grow cabbage. I have failed every year. So it's just not, I just think maybe some of it's where we live. Our soil is just not good for cabbage, but it's on my like bucket list. I'm going to grow a nice head of cabbage one day.
Pam asks, Sam, do you hunt deer? I did in high school a lot. Then I went off to college, and then we didn't have property for a long time. We do have property now. I haven't felt comfortable hunting here with a gun. We just have 10 acres, and we do have a lot of people
Hunt around us.
fairly close to us. And like I would say two of my best spots to hunt in, my neighbors on both sides, even though they own 200 acres and 80 acres, sit on my property line. So I haven't really had the opportunity to hunt, but I definitely want to get into it in the future, and maybe in the future we can get some more land too. But
Well, hey, now that one side they can't sit on the property line anymore because that's part of the land that we traded. You could sit in that spot yourself because that's now all of our property.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like we got that much. I'm sure
Yeah.
he'll sit back another 20 feet now, to sit there. But anyway. What about bow hunting? I have thought about that too.
You used to have a bow. We don't anymore.
Yeah, I used to have, well, it was a very, very old bow. It was a compound bow, but it was my grandpa's. It probably would have worked. I think it probably would have needed to get restrung though, for sure, because that bow was probably 30 years old. But anyway, I probably could bow hunt, but I haven't. Sometime it's gonna happen though, for sure.
Can you check? I heard a little person come downstairs. Make sure they didn't open the baby gate. Yeah. The baby's doing whatever he feels like. All right, Sam is calling this good. He's got to go study for his final, but I'll chat with you all for a little bit longer. So I would like it. I mean, we've talked about having him hunt more or hunt again. This year is not that year. He's just too busy with school, but maybe in the next year, that'd be something that he can do. I know that he really enjoyed it when he did it, and it just hasn't been something he's had time for since we've been out here. So it would be fun to do again. I've saved, like, on Pinterest a whole bunch of really good looking like deer recipes and canning venison and all that kind of stuff. So one day I will use them, but this year's not that year. So we also, as far as fall coming, so we have our chickens and ducks and geese, and we're gonna have to move them to a more secure coop, which I'm sure will make an absolutely hilarious video for you guys, because I can move chickens. We've done that. We've done it basically every year. We move them down to like a winter coop. The reason we move them is, learn lessons the hard way, right? But we built a really nice, secure, like impenetrable coop, but we built it at the bottom of a hill. And in the winter it's fine, but in the late spring it kind of floods. It gets so muddy down there. And then it's like impossible to get down to it because it's just like a slip and slide on the slope. And so we move them up to the front, and that's nice because they mow the grass for us, they help with the bugs close to the house, things like that. And it's real easy to go get your eggs because it's like 2 steps out the front door. But in the winter, they have to be moved back to the better coop. One, because animals start getting more desperate and better and more determined, and the electric fence doesn't really deter them anymore. You need an electric fence and a really good coop. But also, it gives them more protection against the bad weather too. If we have a big ice storm, just the coop that they're in the winter is basically a shed, and it's really well locked up, keep them from getting too cold, and their body heat will remain in there and things like that. But I know that we can move the chickens and the ducks. We've done that every year, kind of get them moved out, but I do not know how we're gonna move geese. I just feel like this will be a comedy video for you all because they are so big, and geese don't like being pushed or intimidated. Their chickens kind of if you just kind of walk behind them, you kind of hurt them where you want them to go. Especially our chickens, we have their wings clipped so they can't fly away. But those geese, you try to push them by kind of surrounding them or, cutting off their access. They just get mad, and they're big and they're mean. And so I'm not quite sure how we're going to move geese down there. We're going to make it happen. But if anybody has ever moved geese, I will take suggestions other than like a humongous bird net I'm not quite sure how we're gonna get them where they need to go. So that'll be fun. Can you lead them with food? And that's something I did think about, but it's kind of a long way. I guess this is a dumb fear because the geese are really attached to where they are now. So even if we got them halfway there and they decided they were done, like I'm pretty confident they will return back to the original coops, not like run away. So maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we'll give that a try. Lure them with some food. But it'll be fun. It'll be good. It'll be, hopefully we come out with all of our fingers and toes still intact. But we are really enjoying having the geese. They are very loud, which is nice. If there's anything fishy going on outside, most of the time, 90% of the time, it's just our cats getting into the chicken fence and annoying them. And the geese just go crazy and they scare the cats away, which is great. And they're so loud you can hear them from the house. So it's like a warning sign that something's going on that you need to go take care of, which is really nice. And that's the reason we got them, to be like guards. Kind of out there, and also to be intimidating for anything that thinks it wants to get in there. I mean, geese are big, and if you're a raccoon, it might make you think twice about how bad you really want that chicken to get through a wall of geese. So we're really enjoying having them. I'm determined next year we're going to raise turkeys, and that'll give us geese, ducks, chicken, several chicken breeds, and turkeys out there. I think that'll just be really cool to look at, from the front step, to look out there and see all that mix. So we'll see what happens. Every year I say we're going to get turkeys, and every year Sam kind of talks me out of it. First it was because they're really dumb and they die easily, which is apparently true. And then now it's just he doesn't have time to butcher a turkey. You raise turkeys for meat. They're not really egg birds, and so he doesn't have time to do it. And goodness knows, me trying to butcher a turkey with 6 kids running around would probably not go very well. So I need his help or somebody's help. So we just haven't done it. But next year maybe it'll be our year and we'll get that done. That'll be a really neat experience. So do any of you all have any fall garden plans? What are you going to plant? Are you going to raise? You got any animals that are going to the freezer over the fall? Let me know. Silver Moon says, maybe slowly move the fence each day closer and closer to the permanent coop. Might take a week, but you'll get there eventually. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I asked my daughter to get a couple of turkeys. She brought 27. That's chicken math. Have you ever seen those videos of chicken math? You need 6 chickens and suddenly you have 30 chickens and 2 ducks and you're not quite sure how you got there, but it always happens that way. So I'm interested. Sam's always... I think once we have them, it won't be so intimidating. Everything is a learning curve, and I think sometimes that's what scares us. And I say us, like as a general us, and also us, me and Sam, like you never want to get an animal and then not be able to care for it well, because that, makes you feel like a terrible human being. And so, turkeys are different. We've read a lot of negative things about them, and we don't want to get something that we're going to sentence to certain death. It doesn't seem like a good idea. So I think once we did it, though, like once you've done it the first time, a lot like pressure canning, once you've done it the first time and you know what you're doing, you have a lot more confidence. It's not so scary. And I think having the geese this year has really made us more confident about branching out to things that aren't as common or that we don't have experience with, because the geese have gone very well. And they were a sizable investment. Geese are not cheap because they don't lay very many eggs, so the chicks are pretty expensive. So hopefully, maybe going into next year, we can do some turkeys. I would really like to get chickens, butchering chickens and turkeys next year, and do that for ourselves, especially when Sam's out of school and he's not in school or working 7 days a week. I think being able to have a butchering day is much more of a possibility. But, all the years we've been here, he's pretty much worked 7 days a week. And so, finding a butchering day is basically impossible because he's always at work. It's a whole day thing, and it's not something that I feel like I can do by myself with all the kids. So next year, stay tuned. Yes, let's see. Karen says, don't forget to do a thumbs up. If you have the time to give us a thumbs up, it does help out a little bit, push us in the algorithm, and we appreciate it. So we appreciate all of you taking time on your Monday night to come and sit with us. So as far as the other animals go, we would really like to get a milk cow in the spring. We love our goats, But they don't produce a lot of milk in comparison to the number of people we are now feeding. And a milk cow, we're finding the point where, getting 2 gallons a day doesn't actually seem like an obscene amount of milk. And so I think we might be trading in our dairy goats for dairy cow and some baby calves next year. So I'm not sure. We're trying to figure out what to do with the goats, if we want to just sell them now, but they're really good lawn mowers for us right now. They're doing a great job. Whether we try to sell them in the winter or keep them to the spring and sell them in the spring, I don't really know. We're just kind of feeling out what might be best. But by this time next year, we probably won't have goats, but we should have hopefully a cow and some calves. And I'm excited about that. The girls. 2 of the kids will drink the goat's milk, the other ones won't, but they will eat the yogurt. I made yogurt from it, but it was just enough milk that like I could do yogurt, or I could make cheese, or I could cook with it. And you couldn't do all 3 because the milk would just go so fast. But with the cow's milk, I know everybody will drink raw cow's milk. We've had it before, and that'll be great. So, and then we can use the excess, and I can actually make butter, which I couldn't do with the goat's milk because I don't have a cream separator. Just be able to do all those things, which I think will be just awesome. I think the girls really enjoy being able to help with those things too. Iris Leedy says, I do lettuce, chard, kale, and other greens in cold frame over the winter. Depends on the winter how many days of food we will get. Nice heavy fresh salad for holiday dinner. Yes, that is very true. I have never tried chard. That might be something I might add this year though. That would be fun. So Allison says, my neighbor took care of our chickens for a week this summer while we were on vacation. We were gone a week at Christmas, and I need to convince her in the winter. Heated water. Yeah, so they do make really neat chicken water heater things that you can just buy at a farm store. They have to be plugged in, I think most of them do, but then you never have to worry about the water freezing. Finding a farmsteader is tough, and that's one of the things that we've talked about over the years. If we ever want to go travel and visit family, the hardest part is like, well, what do we do? Like, who's gonna check on the animals and stuff? So that's one of the big downsides of having a homestead is, like, if you want to go do something or take the kids somewhere to have an experience, like, you're really tied to your animals. But there are a lot of positives too. Silver Moon says, I had some turkeys this year. I got white turkeys, basically like a Cornish cross, and some turkeys for breeding. The breeder toms tried to come after me, so I butchered them. The white ones are fine. Yeah, sometimes, we have a rule here. If it's aggressive, it doesn't stay. It becomes dinner. So we've had a few aggressive roosters, and they don't last long. You can't mess with that, especially when you have kids. Because even a small bird, their talons are vicious, and you don't need them tearing up your kids. So if it even shows a hint of aggression, it's gone. Like, I don't have any patience or time for that. Out of here. So made some chicken soup in my day with roosters. So good. Let's see, anything else? Are we doing anything else for the winter? I think as far as the homestead stuff goes, that's pretty much all. I have a plan in my head for a rainwater catchment system for my greenhouse, but I don't know that that'll actually happen this winter. Annie has another surgery coming up on her ankle, and that'll be in October. And it's a good thing. I think once this is done, we'll see, like, she's had so many benefits from her first surgery, and this is going to take it like 100% of the way. It's gonna fix the last problem that's kind of remaining, that's keeping her from really being able to have as much mobility as she should be able to have. But the surgery will put her in a wheelchair for probably 6 weeks, and she won't be allowed to weight bear at all. And so October/November, it's really going to be, I'm not going to have time to do much else because she's going to need help to do everything. Even kind of the downside, this house, like, even though she's old enough to be, like, able to kind of figure out how to get around in a wheelchair, like, every door has a big threshold. Some of the doors, like the bathroom door, is too skinny for a wheelchair, and so, like, you have to lift and carry her everywhere. So that's going to be taking most of my attention kind of going into the later fall. But we did purposely, it was originally scheduled for June, and then I was like, that's a really bad idea. We can't do that in the summer. And plus, she's a kid, like every kid wants to go swimming in the summer, and you can't do that. You got a big old leg cast on, so made her pee. Hang on one second, let me grab baby. So we rescheduled it for the late fall, which I think will work better. Let me grab the baby. Mr. P. You see you? Look. Let's see. Allison says Swiss chard is great. You should try. I think I will. You can cut it back and just keep producing. Doesn't get eaten by bugs like kale does. Okay. I think I will add that to my list. Since your kids love berries, consider thornless raspberries. We have a patch of even uncovered yields a couple gallons. Yeah, I planted some thornless raspberries this year. I guess it was this season. So we don't get any this year, but next year, right? Because it's the second year, we should get a bunch, and I'm excited for that. I planted elderberries like 4 years ago, and like there are so many elderberries now this year. It's really neat, and they really haven't needed anything. Like I stuck them in the ground, and the first year I was careful to mow around them, and now it's just like this bush that's overtaken the side of the yard, and it doesn't need anything, and that's really cool. So Judah asks, so real quick question from the Ball Clan, easiest thing to can if we wish to start trying to can? So people always ask me this question, and really everything is kind of the same when it comes to canning. Things don't really get harder, they just take a longer amount of time. So if you wanted to try to pressure can something you've never pressure canned before, you wanted to pick something that maybe wasn't a huge time commitment. Not that it's easier, but it's quicker. One of my favorite things is to raw pack potatoes. That literally means that you take white potatoes, you're gonna peel them, dice them into like 1-inch cubes, put them in your hot mason jars, and then top it off with boiling water. And then lids and rings and in your canner. I think it might be 30 minutes, but you need to check the timing on that because my brain is not that good. But really easy, right? And then you have lots of jars of tomatoes on your shelf and potatoes on your shelf. And there's lots of things to use them for. I make mashed potatoes from them. I fry them up like home fries. I throw them in. When I have like a roast in the crock pot, I'll put them in for just the last hour to catch some of the flavor because they're already fully cooked. It's a food most people are eating a lot anyway, and so the time to make them is short. It's an easy one for kids to help with because the potatoes themselves are not hot, and so the kids can do the potatoes in the jar, and then mom or dad can add the hot water on top, so you do it together. Just lots of pluses. So it's not that it's easier because nothing with canning is really harder. The procedure is really almost always the same. Like you get your jars ready, you fill your jars, you can it. It's mostly just about time and if it's things that you'll use regularly. So starting with something like potatoes is really good because it's a quick one, kids can help, and it's a food that you will probably eat regularly anyway. So Silver Moon says, hi, Mr. P. Yeah. Mr. P just had his 1-year checkup, and he's a short, little, strong boy, right? He's a tiny little man. Yep, green beans, carrots, easy too. Most vegetables are pretty easy. I don't know, but I don't know that there's anything that's hard. I mean, if I had to say hard, like spinach was kind of time consuming because you had to steam it first. You had to like stem it and steam it. So it was like time consuming. Was it hard? No, not really, but like there were a lot of steps, and so like it took a lot longer than like green beans or potatoes. So things like that. Yay, so big. All right, well, Mr. P here definitely needs a new diaper. So we might be calling it a night. But we appreciate you all stopping by. We hope you all have great fall plans and are able to see them all fulfilled. And as always, we will keep you attuned to what's going on here. Right, Mr. P? He's tired too. So thanks so much for watching, guys. And we will see you, should be next Monday night if you want to come hang out with us again. And at that point, Sam will be done for his term and he'll be able to join us for the whole time. So we'll talk to you all soon. Bye. You say bye?